Alright, today we've got this little set of Sonus Faber Concertino. Cool little speaker. They came in and they were showing on the binding post some mega ohms, and the owner thought it must be in the crossover network. Alright, here's our woofers. And you can see I've already lifted the kit out of here. But as we checked the woofers, both of them were open. So, I've been told that these replacement woofers, a couple of things. I've been told they're no longer available, and I've been told that they're $300 for this woofer. So it's worth taking a look at it and seeing what we can do with it. So obviously it comes in like this, and a lot of these butyl rubber on alloy type frames that come out of Europe, a lot of them use water-based type glue to hold this thing together, and some of them actually, as they age, they actually come loose because the glue just doesn't hold. In this case, what we wanted to do was pull this kit because it's our only chance to get to the voice coil. It's our only chance to possibly repair this speaker, and it's showing open on the meter, so it's done for. So what I've done here is I take my finger and I go in under the frame and I push up here. And I push and I feel around until I find a spot that wants to come up without pushing so hard that I deform this rubber. And I find a loose spot, and once I get a spot up, then I can get here and I can peel it all the way around. And you can see there's a little glue residue here on the rubber, but there's nothing on the frame. That frame is smooth clean. So this glue doesn't hold to that painted alloy frame very well. So I pull that loose, and then I'll come in here, and once I get the rubber loose, because there's no way to lift the spider, let's get some light and so you can see down in here if possible. And I'll come in here with my X-Acto knife, really sharp, and I'll cut this spider all the way around, as close as I can get it to the frame. And I'll go all the way around, lifting this rubber up as I go. Alright, and then I'll desolder the leads. And now I can lift the entire kit. Alright, now I've got the entire kit out. So, I've already done this before I decided we were going to shoot a video here. I'd already done this, so I can't show you right now, but obviously this is where you can see the voice coil wires here coming off the coil. They're glued to the form. Then they go down through the spider, in between the spider and the form, and they come out here onto the cone, and then they make the joint, and that's a third of the way up that cone. They make the joint right there where they add the tinsel leads. They make that solder joint, and then they cover it up with a bunch of goop. And I guess they think that that's, you know, a good design. The voice coil wire is small and brittle. And when you run that voice coil wire up along this cone, with all the vibrational modes that run back and forth across this cone, this failure is entirely and completely predictable, and I would say unavoidable. This is poor design. Alright, so our only chance to revive this is we're going to have to put new tinsel leads. We can't get that, you know, when you try to pull that lead here and get that goop off there, the voice coil wire just keeps breaking back and breaking back, just like you'd think it would. So what I'm going to have to do here now is I'm going to have to come in here and I'm going to have to cut this adhesive away from either side of that wire. And I'm going to have to get a hold of this voice coil wire. You see that? And I'm going to start pulling it loose. Now I'm going to, hopefully this won't keep breaking on me, and I'll be able to pull it loose. There we go. Okay. Now, I've got that much loose. I don't know if you can see that detail in the picture, but I've got that much of the coil loose. And I'm going to come over here and loosen this side of it too. here's one that I've started on already. This is a water-based, basically a liquid latex type adhesive. And when this completely dries, it'll dry clear, like it's already done here. So I use my soldering iron to perforate the spider. It's a lot easier than using a sharp, X-Acto knife. So I use my soldering iron to punch a couple little holes in the spider. And then I bring some high-grade silver nickel tinsel lead, and I bring it up through the hole in the spider, and I get enough of my voice coil wire peeled back and stripped to where I can resolder to new tinsel lead. And I've done it here, and I've done it here, and now it's resoldered, and I've applied the adhesive. And as I say, when this adhesive dries, it'll dry clear. There's adhesive here, it's hard to see, but you want that adhesive to run all the way up to where your winding starts to come off the coil. Alright, and then adhesive on this side, and I will add more adhesive on this side as it dries, but you can see now my tinsel leads. Alright, so now I have a functional voice coil and I have new tinsel leads on it. This voice coil joint is here on the form now, instead of being on the cone and in the attendant vibrational modes there. So this wire is going to be under a lot less stress, and this tinsel lead is made to flex as it comes to the spider here. And so what we'll do is eventually, after all this sets, is we'll drop it back in and glue it in place. And I want to show you one other thing. Before I started to apply the glue, I took my ohm meter, and right there is 4.3 ohms. Alright, so we're alive at 5 now. Once all this adhesive dries, and I add more adhesive in under here, and that dries, then I'll drop this back in, I'll re-glue this in place, I'll re-glue the spider, and I'll resolder these tinsel leads to the terminals. Alright, you can see what we've done here. I don't know if you can see it, it's pretty small details, but we had to peel the coil wire back where we could get enough till we could get a dependable solder joint here. We had to peel each one back to that point and then attach new tinsel lead. Now this glue is still drying, and then underneath here too we've glued the leads there. So we've got both of them with new leads now, where the original leads had snapped off. And let's see what we've got here with a meter. .3 ohms, and around 4.1. Alright, close enough for government work. So now we've got two assemblies that, after the glue dries, and we came up, and you can't see it because it's dried clear, but we've glued it all the way up to this first turn to where we back wound it there and made sure it's not going to come loose in operation. You see the glue's all over that lead there. Now the coil wire is terminated here, as opposed to being terminated on the cone, so we're not going to have that same failure mode. When this gets all dry, we'll drop these back into the frames. Oh, and here, look at the lead wire here. See how it failed? See, the solder joint didn't fail. The coil wire snapped right at that solder joint. And why did it snap there? Because you put this thin, brittle voice coil wire onto the most active part of the cone in terms of vibration. It's going to fail. I don't care how much pokey you put on top of it. When it's terminated mid-cone, that's a failure mode looking for a place to happen. And that's where it happened. So alignment's not going to be an issue. We've cut the spider right at the frame, And of course the outer suspension sets right in this mortised out area here, so the alignment, it'll line right back up. We'll get rid of these original leads, and then we drop the assembly back in there, and we'll take these leads here and we'll resolder these leads, and we'll be back in business. Now I want to show you one other thing on this Sonus Faber. Now look at this tweeter. It looks to be where it needs to be, and the screws are there, but look at this. Look at that. It lifted right out. Now look at there. The screws, if you can get a close-up in there, the screws are still there. The flange, this flange was cut so thin that just through normal vibration it broke loose. This cabinet's never been dropped or anything. So it broke through all the way around, and you can see it's actually flexing there. So once again, we'll have to remove these screws, and we'll take these pieces of flanges, we'll epoxy them back in place, and then when all that dries, we'll drop it back in here and put it back together. But what a unique failure mode that was. So we have an inherent failure mode in the design and manufacturing in the woofer and the tweeter. So hey guys, Sonus Faber, maybe that's why they've changed this, and this model uses a different woofer and a different tweeter. And if it's still in production, I'm not sure, but the later version of this had a different woofer and a different tweeter. So maybe that turned out to be a problem for them. Going. Alright, you can see here now we've finished installing the new lead wires. I don't know if you can see that. Let's get some light on that for you. So we put a new set of lead wires. We've attached them to the voice coil. You can't see it from this side. We've shimmed it, realigned it, re-glued the outer edge, re-glued the spider. New lead wires. So here's the mate. Same operation. New lead wires on it. Now I want to show you one thing before I put the dust caps on them. You're familiar with the term X-max? That means maximum linear excursion. That means how far this can travel to and fro and still be within its distortion limits. So I'm going to run it down around 8 Hertz, which is lower than you're ever going to operate it, but I want to move it, and I want to move it in as far as its X-max. So this, it's about a 1/4 inch X-max on this little driver. Alright, so you see now with this test at 8 cycles, we're running at the X-max a 1/4 inch. Alright, and it's moving freely and clearly. It's not making any clicks, any buzzes, any distortion at all. It's just freely moving at its X-max. So we're showing 3.4 ohms on the voice coil. We're moving completely freely at its X-max, and we're done. All we have to do now is put the dust caps on and reinstall them in the cabinets. Alright, here's our Sonus Fabers. We got the woofers rebuilt. We've got them put back together. We custom cut a dust cap for this woofer. That original dust cap was just flopping around and making a bunch of noise. So, alright, modified and repaired and ready to go.